Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ultimate HR Implementation Guide. We're just waiting for a few more people to join the room. So in the meantime, will you please just enter your name and company in the chat so that we know who we're chatting to and where you're all from. We'll just give it a couple of minutes. Everyone joining from Joburg, are we having a nice weather day? It's been a little bit cooler this week than it was last week, but I think that we're heading way back up into the 30s again. We do have one presenter who's currently trying to log back in, so I'm hoping she'll be with us shortly because she is the first presenter. So we had her and then we lost her for a bit. So any second now, she should be there. Thanks everyone who's joining us so far, and I can see you popping into the chat. Daryl Feldman from Edcon, hello. SD Lindeq, Daryl, Claire, hi, good to see you there. Thanks everyone for keeping the chat alive. Hi, Mdu. Hi, Lusanda. It's great to have you all here. I'm just going to quickly check in on our other speaker again. Okay, I think it'll be a good idea to start off, and we can hope that Ronel will manage to connect. I do have some tech people in the background doing their best to get her in. If the worst comes to the worst, we can shuffle the order around. But let's kick off. Let's just see there. Okay, so welcome to today's webinar, the Ultimate HR Implementation Guide. We will be speaking to someone from Sanlam who has headed up a fantastic SAP SuccessFactors implementation that's already delivering benefits. And she's going to be revealing for us the steps that got them to success. Many organizations may be considering implementing an HR technology system to ensure that they don't fall behind and that they maximize efficiency. But an HR tech implementation can deliver so much more than that in terms of supporting and transforming HR strategy. And sometimes the benefits only become apparent in times of crisis like the one we're living through right now. So first of all, I'd like to thank our partners for today's webinar, Human Experience Management Solution, SAP SuccessFactors, and Expense Management Solution, SAP Concur, for their support. Do we have Ronel yet? No. Today, in the webinar room, we should have Ronel Pfotenhauer, who's the business owner for SAP SuccessFactors at the Sanlam Group. I'm sure she'll join us any second now. We do have Liesel van Rensburg, Customer Engagement Executive at SAP SuccessFactors, and Bruno Bianchi, who's a strategic advisor for SAP SuccessFactors. Between them all, they'll be providing some great insights into HR technology implementations. But first, let's have a word from our partners. Here is a short video from SAP SuccessFactors, just so that you can have some insight into what they're all about.
Being treated like a number doesn't inspire anyone to be more than their job description. Feeling motivated, supported, and appreciated does. But those kinds of company cultures don't just happen. They're fostered by positive work environments and the people in them. Ones that are invested in making us better, in putting people first and keeping them there. Because the best run businesses run on human experience. Welcome to the age of human experience management.
Can't hear you. Yes, it's me.
Sorry, Georgina, I think you may be on mute.
Thank you. It's going to be one of
I was
those
about
days.
to start a ventriloquist gig, and I thought, I'm not equipped for this.
We haven't managed to get Ronel back in the room yet. She is trying. So I think, Bruno, it might make sense to jump in with your part of the with your discussion first, and then we can hop over to Ronel, because I'm sure she will be able to join us. Sorry about this tech glitch. So, Bruno, one of the things that we talk about is how an HR tech implementation can make you future ready. So what, in your opinion, actually defines a future ready organization?
Yeah, it's a conversation that comes up very often with executive teams, and they've done some work on it in terms of their strategy, their business strategy and their HR strategy very often. But sometimes they forget that there's a bigger human element. And when you talk about future fit or future ready, you need to create everything. So whether it's your policies, whether it's your processes, whether it's your requirements for technology, and whether it's your end solution, to be ready for 7 years' time. So I always use the 7-year benchmark. So what is your workforce going to look like? How are you going to operate in 7 years' time? What are the critical elements that you can predict? Because it's about predicting through a glass ball. No one can predict. But there's certain things like guiding lights that you can predict to say that will still be there in 7 or 10 years' time. So one of them is, for example, keeping things super, super simple. This is horribly underrated. We've had various projects both in our portfolios and also our competitor portfolios where they've implemented something. It's one of the top solutions in the world as rated by analysts. And yet they went and copied their legacy thinking, their legacy processes and all that sort of stuff into the future solution. And although we warn customers and consultants there to support and do that, you really need to reimagine outcomes. You can't reimagine the process. You've got to reimagine the outcome, because everyone's looking for outcomes in this busy world of ours. Now, especially now with COVID and everything like that, things are super, super busy. There's actually more pressures on the individual now sometimes than there used to be when you went to the office. Because you could sort of portion off your time to say this is home time, this is work time. So future fit is key and critical in terms of simplification, in terms of being mobile first, so mobile phone first, and having all these guiding lights in place. And it means that you'll become more resilient. And if you look at what the IMF has done in terms of their outlook for growth, GDP growth across geographies across the world with COVID, they're sort of predicting a 3% drop in GDP in most places. And that is material. That is seriously material when we're talking about GDP. So yeah, it's really about resilience and lasting the test of time.
Okay, fantastic. And obviously, one of the elements of being future ready is agility, which is something that's been put seriously to the test in the current environment. Can you tell us how some of the businesses you support in various industries have weathered COVID-19?
Interesting conversations. If you look at financial revenue per industry, you'd see that your energy and natural resources industry is most probably the hardest hit across geographies, and then financial services. But when you talk about the HR role in financial services has been relatively easy compared to some other industries. So in retail, you compare fashion versus food retail, and it's totally opposite ends of the spectrum. The one party is sitting in an organization where they're basically their customers being cut and everything like that. The other one is like you've got these massive flux of high and low purchasing, and then everything around rules around the government rules into how to manage that. So a lot of organizations have accelerated their success factors path. So they've gone and said, okay, we had this roadmap, we're deciding to ditch that for now, we'll get back to it, but we want to take one piece of that roadmap and put it in right now. And we're going to go super fast, super simple, and they put it in. One of the areas that's quite gained quite a lot of value is collaboration and jam. Obviously learning. Another one that's sort of come through that a lot of customers, we've been talking about human experience management for quite a while, it's SAP now. And COVID has really highlighted how critical that is. So not just critical from a day-to-day HR operations as a professional, but also from oh my gosh, we've had to like do all these different things mechanically, put all these rules in place, change our offices, change our factories, change our work environments, send people home, and IT are scrambling to get all the IT equipment and put in the right software and get the right licenses. And then HR got all this legislation in the background, and very quickly people came to realize that, oops, we actually need to listen to our employees more. We need to hear what's going on, because we don't have that normal physical contact and that verbal contact that we have in the physical world. So the human experience side of it has really come to the fore. And I've had a couple of CHROs actually say to me, previously our project was, being planned, and we'd have to convince the exco. That convincing is not really needed now, because they suddenly realize the value of HR, of human experience. So yeah, it's really turned things on its head in a negative way, obviously, in terms of health and society and incomes and things like that. But for the HR professional, I think we can learn from this and manage the negative aspects, but also leverage the positive as HR professionals and move our practice forward and take ourselves and our teams and also our people to another level. So I could talk about this for hours. I mean, the questions I could literally talk for weeks on. So, for example, one facilities organization, they had various different types of facilities, and the food catering side on the business side sort of limited. But then on the other side, the cleaning side, they had to create new services around deep cleaning and COVID cleaning and all that sort of stuff. So for them, it was about reskilling and also very rapid mass hiring. So they had to suddenly go out there and leverage the tools that they've got to do all these mass hirings. And that's where SuccessFactors really comes into play, because it allows you to do things both in a qualitative manner, but also on scale to a huge degree. Another one was healthcare, similar sort of scenario. Having to had this one side of their hospitals and that is basically tanked. All visits to the hospital were stopped, especially in the Netherlands and some other geographies like Germany and things like that, because fear of the spreading of the virus further. So they're only treating COVID patients primarily. So the other staff were sitting around doing nothing, but then they had a shortage on the COVID side. And it's not like you could just take someone and move them over. You had to literally very rapidly and accelerated manner reskill them. But yeah, so they were able to do that.
And when you say able, so what is it that SuccessFactors supports? So how does that actual scenario work? We need people here, we've got people there, they're not trained. So
yeah. So for example, when you've got Qualtrics, then you can send out those pulses. But obviously, everyone's in a different place in their journey. So no one's on a perfect road. Let's be honest. So each of these customers had different elements of SuccessFactors, and they used whatever they could they have already, and to reskill. So that's about creating course content very, very rapidly on video and sending it out, distributing it immediately, like literally within minutes, to the whole target audience. Being able to communicate with the whole target audience via employee feedback very, very rapidly. Mass hiring, it's about going into your talent pools that you have got with SuccessFactors. I think one of the most impressive reactions I've had on recruiting is a healthcare organization called Franciscan Health, they're in North America. And what they saw when they went pre-COVID, with SuccessFactors, is that it just blew apart their talent pools totally, both from a quantity point of view, but also from a quality point of view. So now they wouldn't have been using their talent pool so actively, whereas now with COVID, a lot of our customers were diving into their talent pools and saying, okay, we actually need to look for these different skills. We actually need to look for additional skills and get out there and get there faster. Some of them actually went and simplified their recruiting processes. So they had lots of controls and checks in place and things like that, especially in the retail space. I heard two different examples from retail, one in the Netherlands and one external to the Netherlands also, where they actually went and changed their process to just simplify it and get it working faster.
That's, yeah.
Sorry,
Those
Georgina, if I can maybe add to that, because I
Sure.
think something that I've actually found as well, something, just as simple as getting an employee list and where are all our employees located? Where are they? Just having that single view and knowing that you can trust the data that you've got. I think that's sometimes really underestimated. So that was something that we found, with some of our local customers, was some of the great benefits that they got from the HR administrative system. Bruno also spoke about SAP Jam, and that was used extensively to communicate to employees to say, these are our protocols, these are our updated policies, here are emergency type of information that you can send out, or contacts, etc., that you can actually share with people. How do you actually, take care of each other, and how do you manage stress in a better way? So I think from that perspective, as Bruno said, there are so many different aspects to the solution. And different people used it in a different way, also the way that they're wanting to achieve things. We've got a Turkish customer which had amazing results where they did a pulse survey. They found out that I think it was close to 90%, if I'm not correct, or if I'm not mistaken, of the employees were really stressed out due to this, and they were uncertain as to what was going on. And by taking that results, they were very quickly able to put in place communication strategies to employees around what is happening, how they can support them, allaying fears around kind of layoffs, things that people can do, for instance. And then literally within 2 weeks, when they redid the pulse survey, they had managed to reduce that stress factor down to all the way down to something like 12%, if I'm not, the numbers actually escape me because I'm just talking about this now on that, but it was dramatic, and I think this is where the power comes from, knowing how to get hold of your people, and what kind of questions to ask, and then being able to put actions in place, to really just support your employees, because at the end of the day, that is what people remember, is that experience. So that is what really is important at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Lisa, you touched on a very important point. It's about not just having that feedback and having that information, but for our customers to, during this time, to not only look at that information, but actually connect that information to an action and then track that action. And that's really what business is about. It's about getting progress. It's about resolving challenges. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that gives great insight on the people side of it. But Bruno, you also mentioned the rather moribund growth projections that we have ahead of us. And a tech solution like this actually does have the capacity to also support growth. So could you give a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah, I was looking at some stats because of several customers. But Shanghai has got something like 24 million people in one city. And two global customers had a growth path, international growth path. And I've got other organizations based in South Africa that have got an international growth path, both in Africa and also external. But Asia tends to come up quite often. And what happened is that despite challenging circumstances, despite a lack of knowledge over that geography or that new product or that new market, very often there's challenges that you come along, and if you don't have visibility into how to solve that or what's causing it, that's one thing. But once you find out what's causing it, then you need to have something to solve it. And the one example was in Asia, that this one customer's got a firm footprint there already, so it's a geography they understand and they know. But they were having some serious problems on the sales side with their sales teams getting traction around certain matters. And what we did is we spoke to them about it and said, look, for them, in this specific circumstance, the SuccessFactors learning solution was really going to deliver a lot of value, both from a traditional learning channel, but also from a social learning perspective. On another example, and the example I spoke to them about was in healthcare, life sciences, global organization did 12 million learnings in 1 year. That is material, and the way they did it was with social learning. So you have these subject matter experts who are out there in your organization, and instead of one learning practitioner creating content or one learning team creating content, You've got these subject matter experts who have been in the field that know exactly what they're talking about. They know the right way to do things. They create the content on video or on document or whatever the case may be. I think it's moderated in a central learning professional, certain team. And it's channeled out there much, much faster. So it means that you're leveraging the power of the network. You're leveraging exponential instead of working your whole organization as fast as your learning team can operate. So that was significant because it meant that not only that they could solve a business problem, make sure that customers have an improved NPS satisfaction score, but also that they increase their revenue. And even if you're talking about a charity organization, you've got these type of goals to grow and to deliver satisfaction and to deliver value. Yeah.
And I love that example because I think to a large extent it also speaks about engagement. Because for people to contribute the knowledge that they've got fosters that feeling of I've got something to contribute to my organization, and engages people in a different way. And also to a large extent, I learn better and I almost respect people who do things well within my organization, more so than just a training document, which might not be as practical and may not actually have the gravitas almost that this person that's wearing this hat and like I'm doing this job every single day, and really that engagement is something that is so important during this time where we are all isolated from each other, and finding ways in which people can contribute, I think is in this way is just awesome, and something that we all should be looking at. How can we make sure that we provide these kind of opportunities to employees?
And if I can tap onto the end of that engagement, there's something that changed a couple of years ago, and it changed both in the general market and also, so whether you're talking about Russia, China, America, Europe, or even South Africa, with POPI, with GDPR, each region's got these same sort of privacy rules. So now the problem with COVID is you've got these people that are not as engaged. They feel that they're all alone. They don't feel that they belong as much because they're not having that healthy interaction with their colleagues, not having that healthy interaction with the organization. And Diesel touched on the organizational engagement. But also, when you look at something like Qualtrics and being able to get that employee feedback and action it all the time, and that's embedded into moments that matter in the HR employee lifecycle. So when you're able to do that, you can do something that's very different. It's becoming becoming more difficult. Sorry, I'm trying to talk too fast. I'm very passionate about what I do. So during this time, people don't feel that they belong enough. And with GDPR and POPI and all these different rules, it's actually making it harder to report on diversity and inclusion. And so because of the data privacy, you're not allowed to keep track of this, and you're not allowed to keep this data for so many years, and you've got to purge the data and all these sort of things. So now if you've got diversity and inclusion goals, it's actually becoming harder to track them in a lot of countries. Whereas you can track belonging with employee feedback. With the human experience management, you can track belonging. And belonging is really, to me, the ultimate outcome of diversity and inclusion. Because diversity and inclusion should not be focused only on gender or race or sexual orientation or all these different dimensions. Those dimensions are key and critical, absolutely. They need to be rectified. But the ultimate end goal is that everyone feels that they belong. And that's where we feel as SuccessFactors, the human experience management approach to HR is leading edge, literally.
Okay, great. And thank you for the passion with which you speak of all of these things. And you didn't sound like you were speed wobbling until you confessed to it. Great relief. It seems like Ronel has managed to join us. Ronel, can you pop on camera and let's see if that's all working, because then we'll hop over to your story. Any luck? I don't know if you're on mute and off camera. Oh, we're not having good luck with Ronel today. The terrible thing is that she was in the startup room, and then we got booted off because we'd run out of testing time, and it just seems like she's had such terrible trouble reconnecting, which is a tragedy. No, I mean, we really aren't hearing from her. Ronel, I don't know if you recall the two little blue circles at the top. Can you click on either of those to bring back your audio or your video? No, nothing yet. Okay, well, I mean, are we getting somewhere? Because I can see that she's now in the room. So hopefully we'll progress. So Liesl, I think that maybe it's better if we hop over to some of the questions that I had for you.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah. So and we are a little bit about face because we wanted to hear about Ronel's implementation first.
And it's such a great implementation story too, but I did live a little bit of that part of them. So I'm hoping that I will be able to at least do it justice in terms of the portion that I will be speaking about, but still hoping and crossing fingers that Ronel will be able to tell her story as well.
Great. So I think the first thing is what do you think is important for HR leaders to be mentally prepared for when they go into a massive technology implementation?
So that's actually quite an interesting one because, I mean, we talk about a technology implementation, but really, technology forms such a small part of this because at the end of the day, it really should be about the transformation. So designing for the end in mind and understanding that this is a behavioral change. And I think, Bruno alluded to this earlier that, sometimes we get people who, will implement something and they will try and just rehash the processes that they have at the moment. And, you're actually making quite an expensive decision right there that may not actually give the business benefit that you actually should have. And I'm seeing Ronel, so I'm actually super excited about that.
Sure, Ronel, it must have been super stressful on your side as well.
So feeling very calm at this point in time. It's wonderful. It's wonderful to learn how to break through a firewall. It's lovely.
Hacker 101. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Back on track.
Yeah, so I think maybe let me just finish with this and then perhaps we can actually hand over to Ronel because I think this is really, what she's got to say is super important, if that's okay. So yes, I think just getting back to this actually really needs to be a behavioral change. It shouldn't just be, we're implementing a piece of tech and look at it from a technology perspective. I think also it's really important to make sure that everybody's on board with this journey that you have and really this vision that you put forward to say, this is the type of behavior, this is the type of experience that I'm wanting to have for my employees as well. It doesn't help actually just saying, oh, okay, well, this is what we want from an HR perspective. You really need to start looking at how do you engage your employees? How do you drive the behavioral changes that you want and making sure that you really build in the experience part of all of this as well. So I'm going to call it quits there and then Georgina, hand over back to you.
Okay, great. And I think that provides so much of the support of what Ronel is going to talk about is the evolution of that thinking at the Sanlam Group. So Ronel, we're so glad to see you. But wait, the audience, we have a little bit of something for you to do. I have a poll that I would like you to participate in while Ronel is talking. And you'll see it should be popping up in your chat now. So you can carry on with that while I hand over to Ronel for her presentation. Ronel, I'm starting your slides. Bruno and Liesl, I think it would be best if we go off camera so that not all our faces are there over the slide presentation.
Great, fantastic. Thanks very much. And so absolutely, we're actually very proud of the fact that we've got such good firewall protection in Sanlam because that is what it is all about. So hence, apologies for being slightly late. So, a fantastic opportunity to really take you through our journey on this digital transformation and how we kind of have embarked on this journey. Our journey started in 2017. And very briefly, just as an overview around Sanlam, Sanlam is both a short, long-term and an investment business. It's over 100 years old already, well-known within the South African context, but actually far more well-known these days within the Pan-African context. We've got approximately 105,000 employees across 44 countries, of which we've embarked our SuccessFactors first part of our digital transformation journey with only 14,500 people in 2 countries, which was South Africa and Namibia. And phase 2 is basically where we're going to start going into the remainder of the countries. Just in a nutshell, why did we decide on SuccessFactors as a starting point? And then secondly, where is it that we see that we're going to go with this? So importantly, SuccessFactors is partially because we were already on SAP HCM for payroll on-prem, and hence kind of like one of the considerations. One of the other very important considerations for us was around the fact that we really wanted an integrated solution, and hence various different solutions that's on the market, various different solutions that provide you, whether it is, mobile functionality, whether it is that it provides you with a very good kind of like base functionality from a payroll perspective. But really for us, the integration of all of the different solutions was important, and hence then part of the reason as to why we then specifically went with SuccessFactors. The modules that we currently have already implemented is we've got Employee Central, we've got Recruitment, Management and Marketing, we've got Onboarding, we've got Performance and Goals. We are about to go basically, and you'll still see they plan for 2019. Apologies, I haven't updated that. We've also already Succession and Development. We've already updated or launched that. We've got Learning towards the end of this year, and then we've got Compensation in the next year. So really our journey is the fact that initially when we started out in part of the learnings, and I'm just going to interwoven the learnings throughout my presentation, just as to kind of like indicate how this really is. It is not a race that you're running. It really is a journey, and very much a journey of transformation. It's the fact that when we started out, we very much started out with a mindset of we needed something to replace our on-prem system. And hence, that was very much the mindset, and it's a tool and it's technology versus it really has morphed from 2017 very much into one of this is a transformational journey. And hence, we have changed our approach significantly around that. But importantly was to kind of like start off and to say, in our digital transformation, it obviously has to be linked both to the company as well as the HR strategic focus areas. And you will very much see that the digitalization of HR and just going through that particular journey features very strongly as part of our HR strategic focus areas. With first the focus, as I've mentioned, on South Africa and Namibia, but then we're definitely now going into the phase of then starting to focus also on Pan-Africa with the India component of our business to follow last. Then in digitizing HR, what this has also really brought about was the fact that we started to look at 3 very distinct things. The one was, how do we want to look at it from an employee experience perspective? So how do we want to modernize the HR language and not talking about recruitment and onboarding and kind of like in silos as to what we've had in the past, but really focusing as to how is this going to add value from an HR and from very much an employee perspective. Then the second part was to say we wanted data and we wanted data analytics so that we can inform for better decisions. But we didn't want data analytics of HR in isolation. We really wanted that as part of the full complement of being able to ultimately visualize data with other areas like operations, like sales data, like client data. And that takes me to the part of this particular slide in saying for us also very important was the fact that we wanted to streamline our digital environment from a HR perspective. And why I say that is because we've got a federated model. So we used to have that everybody basically could have do things the way that they wanted to. Everybody was bringing in a different kind of like tool. And all of that, even though we think was enhancing the employee experience, when talking to the employee was telling us that that was quite confusing. So we really wanted to focus on those 3 distinct things, and we've really stayed true to those 3 different areas as explained over here. Then Part of our benefits of that particular phase one was the fact that we've done a lot of consolidation in our processes and actually realized paying for 7 different competency libraries versus 1. Just the huge benefit that resides within that. During COVID, we wouldn't have been able to continue with any of our operations from an HR perspective if we didn't have the digital solutions. And hence it was critical. We could continue as per normal with our recruitment, as per normal with our onboarding, as per normal with our performance and goals, with absolutely no disruption. So hence with that future fit focus of you can work from anywhere in any place. Mobile has brought such a phenomenal element, again, that people, again, from anywhere or any place can transact, and also that people really want that particular solution. With our recruitment analytics, we can track down to a granular detail, where do we actually need to market for our roles? And hence what we have had to date is a 2.3 million recurring saving per annum on our recruitment spend, just by looking at our analytics and realize where we actually need to land all of the campaigns. And there are many more, but the benefit realization, we're really starting to see come through very strongly now. Then important for us as part of this journey, and the reason why I wanted to share a little bit just of this with you, is around the fact that it is very, very important. As I said, we embarked very much initially with that mindset of, you know, what we've got is we basically have got this whole sense around, oh yes, it's just going to be a system replacement. And very soon realizing how important it was to really focus on actually getting something that is going to enhance the experience, but something that is integrated to make life easy for our employees. And hence for us, it was then to define what is that common kind of like golden thread that basically ties all of your tasks.
Ronel, it seems we've lost you again. Is anyone else able to hear Ronel?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh no, this is terrible.
Oh, shame. She was really kind of ramping up there with like all the exciting stuff.
Yes, no, she was just getting to my favorite part of the story. Ronel, I don't know if you can hear us. I hope she's not furiously presenting.
I think she is actually, if you see the slides all kind of progressing.
Going ahead. Okay, I'm going to see if I type in the chat. Ronel, we've lost you. I'm not entirely sure what to do though, because if she's connected, then I think it's a connectivity issue. Thanks everyone for bearing with us. I'm sorry that we are telling this story in such a roundabout way. I'm just asking someone to quickly give her a call. Okay, so I think let me pause her presentation. And Liesel, I think let's have you back on camera, just to kind of carry things along.
Well, this is actually awesome, right? Because I mean, we were just talking about that this should be a transformation journey, and that it is not just a replacement. And you know, it's almost like Ronel and I've rehearsed this to say, okay, you go off camera now, and then I'll come back. And
I'm sure we've also said something about agility.
I think we did mention that once or twice. Absolutely. Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to know is, what is the best approach for getting the best outcomes from a tech implementation? So a couple of upfront things that you should make your head right about.
Think about, absolutely. And I think Ronel actually alluded to this as well. And you know, we often go into implementations, you know, with a mindset where we suggest we look at what we call a phase 0. So this is really more of a pre-implementation type of mindset, you know, for customers to know that, right, you know, we need to at least have some kind of idea about what our HR strategy is, how that links through to our business strategy. We need to understand, how are we best going to be servicing our employees within this, new behavioral change and experience economy that we are working on as well. I think partnering obviously with IT, because as much as this is an HR project and as much as it's a tech project, it's not an HR project and it's not an IT project. It is very much a combination and a partnership between your HR and IT departments that can really make it work. And I'm hoping that Ronel will actually allude to that as well, because I know they've got a very strong relationship with their IT department that has enabled quite a number of things for them as well. I think it's also really important to design with the end in mind. What is it that you're wanting to see at the end of the day around that? And something else that I love, and it's something that I've stolen from one of our other customers, Annette Marcus from Teva Pharmaceuticals, and she always says it's not about perfection, it's about progression. So it really is around kind of this ongoing process, and once you have gone live with a module or you have gone live with a piece of functionality, it really is this ongoing process of making 100% sure that there is continuous improvement built in. The change management that you have set about, because this is a transformation journey, needs to be reinforced continuously as we actually go along as well. So those would be kind of like the top items that I would actually say, as Ronel's dog is joining the call as well. So I'm going to hand back over to you again, Georgina.
Thanks, Liesl, and you've been such a fantastic palate cleanser between the courses now.
Just call me lime soda.
So, Ronel, have you managed to get rid of your dog? Because are you here, Ronel?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you. You're not on camera. There you are. I'm gonna go off camera and I'm gonna restart your presentation, but you might have to get back to the slide you were on. Oh no, it seems like it's remembered. But I think, can you go one slide back, because I think we saw the slide flipping forward, and you were still talking.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep camera off, just to hopefully then ensure that we've got maybe better bandwidth just from a presentation perspective. Okay, great. So you can still hear me clearly?
Yes, you're all loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, great. So as I've mentioned, just the importance around kind of like having this glue of your job architecture and having to really think about that upfront and really kind of like link that to your strategic direction, because that really kind of like flows into all of the modules. So as I've mentioned, firstly, the link to your workforce planning. Then I really spoke around the fact that it also links very much into Employee Central. It forms the foundation in your Employee Central module to really be able then to link it into recruitment, which is the next one. So you've got your position management and then your link to recruitment. Your link to recruitment, it takes you into your link for performance and goals. It then takes you into your link for succession and development. It takes you into your link for learning and skills, and also ultimately so that people can achieve all of this via mobile. So in all of this was the whole thing around the particular journey of be able to kind of like, just want to quickly go to the lessons there, was the fact that what we had to do was to really almost iteratively, and I heard Liesl talking about that as well, was that we iteratively had to, on a continuous basis, basically had to have a situation where we had to kind of like start, restart, tweak, retweak, and I think it's the important thing of being comfortable with it. It's being comfortable to be okay with the fact that sometimes you're going to have to do and redo. Also being comfortable with the fact that you've got to sometimes start with a smaller kind of like early adopter audience, and then from your early adopters, then basically scale it from there, being very comfortable with that. And really to ultimately also look what really is working for people. So we started a tremendous drive now around understanding adoption and how we really work with adoption going forward. So some of the lessons that we have learned as part of just in particular our EC lessons was the fact that, SuccessFactors leading practice is there for a reason. Follow it. There's best expertise for replication because we've got a hybrid situation between EC and obviously SuccessFactors, and that's very important that you, between on-prem as well as cloud, that you follow that best practice. It's very important to work with multidisciplinary teams. So therefore, close teams between what we have as HR, marketing, IT. The very important part of position management, really understand that. The data cleanup, touching just on data cleanup, we basically literally had to go from 3,500 roles to 700 roles. We had to clean up. We had to really look at our data. The whole thing about garbage in and garbage out, and especially now as we're starting our advanced analytics process, the importance of that. The base data for integration into other modules, to be able to understand basically your platform and your provisioning, all of your validation tools, all of your workflows, very important role-based permissions, but to mention a few. And then I think in recruitment and onboarding, kind of like very similar, it's business requirements that really drives it. It is about talking to business on a continuous basis. We included employees and line managers at each part of the step because it is ultimately them as a client. What is important to them? What is it that they want? We're actually noticing right now that 70% of all of our applications are coming from candidates. It's all via mobile. What do we need to do on mobile to make it even more attractive for people from a recruitment perspective to continue to apply? So again, just highlighting a few there because from a timing perspective, just knowing that it's important also just to raise a few questions around this. But very important, your integration back to EC, and then of course also your integration to onboarding. And then really, for me, a key slide here on general kind of like lessons is I've touched on it, but it is transformation versus being a system implementation. Very important is the selection of your implementation partner. We definitely upfront did not necessarily made the right decision from an implementation partner perspective. And hence, the current implementation partner that we have got, we absolutely see as world-class, and it's made the world of difference to us. So hence, lessons learned there. Very important is that we're now working on adoption personas, but I'm not talking about adoption personas more from an employee experience perspective. I'm talking about digital adoption personas. So really to see which are the tools and why are those tools being utilized by particular individuals, and can we pick up a particular persona of individuals? What we've also picked up is, and that also speaks a little bit to what I've heard Liesl talking about, is how quickly we can take the feedback about what is working or not working in the system, turn that around, and then go back with something that is better, because that drives for better adoption. And to be able to be agile and increase your speed on that, we have found to be highly beneficial for us. Change management across the board. Change management with HR, this is a huge shift for them. We are basically putting our line managers in the middle of all of these processes. So huge change management from a line manager perspective. Employees, making it easy for them, focusing on what their particular requirements are, assisting them that they can build a career for themselves. And where it used to be very paper-based and very manual, is the fact that they can basically continue to transact now like a consumer, but as an employee within the organization. Stakeholder management, we are continuously bottom up and top down. We are always going back to the executives. We are keeping them on sites, but as much as keeping them on sites, we keep the rest of our stakeholders. As we said, very important, the line managers, the employees, the HR community, huge change management with the HR community. And of course, very important, we work very closely with marketing, finance, IT, HR, it's multidisciplinary. It is not in silo. Cloud readiness within the organization. Sanlam, as we've mentioned, we've got very, very strict protocols around what is allowed and what is not allowed. And so hence, from a cloud perspective, there were lots of stuff that we had to learn, hurdles that we had to overcome. Some of them good, some of them at times were frustrating, but that's how it goes. Agile, already spoken about that quite a bit already. But for us, very important was the fact that we really could get our teams to work in a far more agile manner. And then very important is your operating model. So how do you ensure that you keep governance on all of these very good aspects that you have introduced? How do you ensure that you flex between when governance is needed and when you need to have the flexibility? And then how, of course, do you support the digital journey through an operating model that is as agile? And we are moving very much as Sanlam in the direction of utilizing our HR resources as project rather than full-time dedicated to a particular environment. So therefore, what we do is we look at the highest priorities from a business perspective, but that would also return the highest value, and then we allocate resources to that. So really moving away from the very traditional kind of like putting it in silos. So I'm going to pause there and just see if there's any particular comments or further questions on that. Thanks, Georgina.
Thanks, Ronel. That really was a great presentation. It was certainly worth the wait. So thank you very much for your time and input on that. And it really, the interesting thing for me was this idea that you went into it as a tech replacement solution, and you came out of it with a transformation strategy project on your hands. And that must have been quite a thing to make your heads right about. So well done on that. Here's an interesting thing. I'm now going to end the poll that we ran, where we asked, what do you see as the purpose of an HR tech implementation? The first, which had 0%, is to replace and update existing processes. So that's quite a good indication. Hang on, let me just end the slide so that we're back to normal. The second, which was to improve the efficiency of the HR function, came in at 43%. And then at 56%, we had to drive significant HR transformation in the organization. So it does seem that our audience gets it. But at the same time, there are people who feel that it really is just to improve the efficiency and not necessarily to drive strategy. So Liesel, could you hop back on camera and unmute and just let us know what you think of these outcomes?
Yeah, quite interesting. And I think that, even by just improving your HR function, you're going to get benefit, right? And I don't think we need to underestimate the benefit that you're going to be getting from that. But yeah, I still feel that, that from an HR transformation and focusing on that experience, we're really moving towards the experience economy. I think being able to put the foundation in place by redesigning your processes and becoming more efficient, absolutely, it's the right thing to do. Once you've got that foundation, often you can accelerate your transformation. But as Ronel said, sometimes that would mean kind of taking a step back and, looking at things from a different perspective. The nice thing about things like cloud-based software that is so prolific at the moment is that you have a very rapid way of implementing something and solving a very specific business problem. So we've had, some organizations that has gone live in as little as about 3 or 4 months with a specific part of the suite that we have. And, as much as technically it is really easy to be able to do these things very fast, and to be able to do things as, if something hit us like COVID and all of a sudden we have to now have a recruiting solution in place. So we have to, get a collaboration tool up and running really quickly. We have to actually look at how we communicate with employees. So all of those things absolutely is very possible from a tech perspective. But there are other things, and going back to Ronel's presentation, things like setting up your job architecture, making sure that your HR strategy is future fit, and then getting back to change management, because if we're really wanting to support people, even if it's just improving efficiencies, you are going to be changing the way that you are working anyway. So from that perspective, that is the things that takes a really long time, and that shouldn't be underestimated. When these tech companies come to you and say, oh, we can have you up and running in 12 weeks or whatever the case might be. Absolutely, yes, technically we can, but don't underestimate the work that it's going to be placed and the ownership it's going to be placing on your organization for that change management piece, for getting the data sorted out, for getting the job architecture sorted out. And some of those things are maybe not prerequisites, but definitely something that needs to be considered as part of your planning as well.
Okay, great. And then I had one last question for you before we jump over to one or two that are appearing in the chat, which is, what specific value have you observed from the solutions you provide as people have returned to work, as lockdowns have eased? I know you speak to a lot of your a lot of HR people, a lot of your customers. So yeah. How are things going?
Yeah, so, I think people are approaching this quite differently, but a lot of people are starting to open up their offices more. I think, once again, having a solution where you at least know where your people are at any given point in time is really important. And at some point, I know it sounds like a very distant kind of memory and something that we can't even really fathom about doing. At some point, we're going to start traveling again as well. Being able to have a really simplified solution in place where people don't have to worry about expense management, is one portion. But I think even more importantly is we are finding through research that when you ask employees, well, if you're going to be traveling again, what is going to be the most important thing? And people are saying, I want to know what the safety risks are, and I need to have this in an app that is available, to me. And that is where, for instance, SAP Concur will play a really great supportive role in making employees feel safe and being able to do what they need to do. And then conversely, for the organization to take responsibilities of duty of care really seriously, because they will be able to, in a time of a crisis, be able to look at the various different aspects that are available to them and support their employees going forward as well.
Liesl, thanks so much. And I do just want to quickly jump on a video from our other partner for this webinar today. So here is SAP Concur for us.
Employee engagement is about employee experience, the experience they're having at work, the tools that they're using, the people that they're working with, and the jobs that they're doing.
The success of the people and the business are inextricably tied, and if we focus on the people, the success of the business will just naturally follow.
We are hiring and investing in smart people. And if we give them tools that are not easy to use, making their jobs tedious, it drops employee engagement.
The more we can do on behalf of the user, the more accurate expense reports will be, and the more the user will want to engage with our software.
When you give people good tools to use, you not only get better data, but you also get it faster.
A conversation, when it's happening on Slack or Alexa, with machine learning, we can take that context that's trapped inside of business documents and use that to create a truly magical experience for customers.
Continuing to try to make the tasks easier for a growing set of users that have diverse needs, and increasingly make our application more accessible to everybody.
Our customers are in the business of leading their industries, and every minute we save them is time they can spend on making a difference.
We all know employee engagement is key to any company's success. It's not just nice to have, it's a strategic advantage for all of us.
So that was just a fantastic insight into how one of our partners supports their customers. I see we've had a question in the chat coming through from Anetta Hayward on what advice would you give on how to choose the right implementation partner? Ronel, could you come back on mic and just let us know how you talk us through that process a little bit from your side? Oh dear, it seems like.
Clearly?
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yeah.
You can hear me clearly? Great. So with regards to the importance for us is definitely to focus on the certifications. So important definitely that they're obviously SF certified. And then also just the implementation experience around depending on the complexities of your business. So therefore that they've had experience with a business that has got multiple different countries, as well as also just requirements from both a global and a local kind of like perspective. So those I would say are all very important. The other part also is integration. So therefore really understanding integration. We've got the hybrid solution as mentioned with SAP payroll, which is on-prem, versus Employee Central in cloud, and that's got good exposure and experience within that. Those are kind of like the key ones that I would say from our perspective. And then maybe just a last one is around the business consulting skills, because having the technical knowledge is one thing, but being able to take your requirements from a business consulting perspective and translate that then into configuration, that really is critical and very important as well.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Ronel. Bruno, I saw that you jumped in with a comment in the chat. So can you expand on that a little bit? And then I think we'll wrap up for today.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything additional. It's exactly what Ronel said. You really need to understand their past projects as to how their competence from their past projects is specific to your specific journey, your specific next steps. So, for example, if you're going to have, you've got deep complexity in your HR practice in a certain area, make sure that the partner that you go with understands, like Ronel says, that the business consulting element, that they can translate it into the technology capabilities correctly. The tools can do a lot. They're very broad, they're very deep. So anything in the employee life cycle is pretty much addressed. The question is how you then use that tool and how your partner implements that tool.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to all three of you on the panel. You really have been amazing and rolled with the punches today. It was a great webinar in terms of content, and I think that we all dealt with the stresses as they presented themselves. So thank you very, very much, everyone, for your time. I've got a little bit of what's coming up next in our world. So this is where we're at the moment. Next up on the 29th of October, we have Performance Management and Neuroscience, 360-degree feedback on steroids, potential agility and performance from HF and Talent Index. You can go to chro.co.za/events to sign up for these. Then from Oracle, we've got Back to the Office or Not, how Momentum Metropolitan is getting it right. And then we have Policy Perfection, how to write a document people will read and act on the 11th of November. So if any of those are what you like to check in on, please pop over to chro.co.za/events and you can register for those upcoming webinars. Just once again, thank you very, very much for everybody who attended today. Sorry about the glitches, but I hope we made up for it in terms of excellent content. And thanks so much, Liesl, Ronel, and Bruno for your time and input.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Stay safe.
Cheers.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.